So before we start to work more on the website itself, sometimes it does make sense to think about what we actually want to create beforehand. So there are two things that you can do to plan this entire thing out. And one thing is, first of all, a sitemap, so that you know how you want to structure your entire website. And another thing is called a wireframe. So that's why today we're not in WordPress itself, but we take a little excursus, or we just have a look at Illustrator at this point. I know it's German, but we don't really need much at that point, because what we're going to work with is mostly the rectangular tool and the text thing, because it's just a sort of sketch how you want this all to turn out. So first of all, I'm going to create a sitemap. It's just so that I can prepare myself. There are a lot of different versions that you can do a sitemap. I know that there are tools out there that you could use, but at that time being, I will just use Illustrator for that. So we're going to make this, give this a border, and fill it with, let's fill it with whatever, light gray. And then we're gonna type in home, because that's our first page that we want. So let's just center that, which it was already. Next thing we're gonna do is copy it over, and since it's the website that I'm going to create is for Geek Hearing, our awesome podcast, that's what I am thinking about now. So I obviously want the home page, then I want an About Us page, then I want episodes, and what else? Resources, because that's what we want to offer you. Then we will create a contact page. Contact us. Sorry for the voice. And that's technically could be it. What we could think about now is eventually how to just create that connection lines, since they don't have a stroke here right now. I will give it a stroke. What we could potentially do is split the About Us page into two pages, or have two sub pages. So that's how you could work with your sitemap. So you could say one is Amanda and one is Annika. So we could just do that here. And then we can use the stroke thing again. And use it for that. And the same thing for here. So that you can see how you want to actually plan out your website. If you have a bigger page, you can continue to do it with these boxes, for example, or you can just find a tool that can do that for you. When I plan that out, I can technically already add some information that might help me. For example, I know that the episodes page will be a blog page, so I'm writing that here just for my own understanding. It doesn't need to be big, just some sort of extra information about that thing. So after you've created that sitemap, we can go, so all of these pages will be separate pages. So that's going to be the blog page, which means that there are a lot of separate pages for each episode, which are all a separate blog page. But there is no need to fill all the separate blog pages here, because, well, as an episode is added, a new blog page with the show notes will be added. So after you've done that, you can now create a second page, and the wireframe is often, how weird does that look? Where is it? Is that, what language should that even be? Weird. Whatever. So we will add another drawing board where I will start to create the wireframe for the first page. There are often wireframes, usually you can start to create your wireframes already and compare it to the desktop, and you can create 3 different ones, one for the desktop version, one for the tablet version, and one for the what's his name, mobile version. So we're going to do that just now. I am not going to split it up into the 3 different things, but you could potentially do that and create it already as you would create it with the correct resolution. But I'm not going to do that because, the theme already gives me most of the limits, but like that it will only be some sort of plan for me to know what I want to build afterwards. Usually, especially for pages that I do for myself, I am not doing that. I just start creating and change it up very often. So the thing is just that sometimes maybe sketching it does make more sense. So at the top, we're going to have the logo here, and type that in. So I'm going to zoom in here a bit. So there is going to be the logo. As you see, it's just for sketching, really. Then we have another thing that on this hand side, there will be the navigation. And it will be longer because I will have all the copy here. I will make that a bit smaller, just so that I can see how it will actually work. And what I'm gonna do, I can always make that longer, just because that's technically what I create, what I sketch for then to have the side practically created here, if you know what I mean. But I think you do. So the next thing will be that I will definitely add a header part here. So I will have a big picture in the back that I can add here. Background picture. But here I want to have a block of text. I'm gonna copy that thing now. I'm probably choosing a different color just so that I am a bit more aware of what I'm doing here. Let's just use the green. obviously green is the best color in the world. And then, where is my effects hiding? Windows. Where are you? Effects, where are you? So there are all the options. I will just play around. Make it a bit lighter. Ooh, gross. That will be text. So I have a headline here, maybe short description, headline and tagline. Let's just call it that, tagline, because we don't want to be there to be too much. Then what we could do is have an option for previous episodes, like a blog thing where you can actually see the last 3 episodes with an image and episode preview 1. 2, 3, as in divided in columns and as a separate section. Depends on how big. I could maybe, but let's go with 3. I kind of like the idea of 3. Then the separate section could be, the next section could be a quick intro. I just used it to differentiate. I just use it now to differentiate between the sections that is now gray, white, gray. Then what else could we add here? Another copy, another, obviously should be in line with things. Let's just adjust that. Yeah, the same way. As you see, it's just supposed to be as sketch, so how correct you're making it is not that important. It's not that important. It's just when you're OCD-ish, sometimes could be annoying if you don't have it in line. So the next section is, we already have pictures here, so we could have some quick text here. So I'm going to add that those are pictures. And give it just another color so I know what it is. Let's make it orangey. Wow, that's a color I've never used before, but whatever. So these should be pictures. So that I know the difference. That's a text. There should be nothing as a background picture. There are pictures as a preview here, here, and here. And it probably has some copy, some text here, depending on maybe a preview text below. Just as a small teaser of what has been happening. Then the next part could be some text thing about us, for example. So it could be 2 columns too. Text and text. Or we could have, let's do it that way. We can have this blurb option so that we have an an icon at the top or an image at the top, and then text below. Oops. Let's go back here. Image, icon, image. Let's use a round thing. Bluish with a black border. In the back, there is an icon or an image at the top. Here is another one. Here is another one. So that's already creating a thought process here of how the page could actually look like. Oops. How did that even happen? Yes. So now they're all in alignment. In alignment. That sounds very woo. But I didn't mean it in a woo way. In a woo way. Sorry, sometimes I amuse myself too much. So we can have, for example, 3 goals or our top priorities, why we do it, why, what, or maybe what and who, why, what, and who. So we can talk about why we're doing this podcast, what this podcast brings you, and who it is for. So we could have 3 icon images at the top and a bit of a copy at the bottom, which already makes it kind of nice. Then we could add something about ourselves, maybe. So about Amanda, about Monica. That's again a picture, and since we've noted already, I deleted from here. Don't need a third one, so that means we can make this bigger, and it can be 2 columns. For example, oops, that's always a bit annoying when it does not align it to what you want it to align, but generally that's how it works. So at the first page, it is going to be the first, so the home page, that means that's the first page that the people see when they arrive on our website. So generally what I will have there is the logo at the top, then the navigation where it says everything that I have written down here and at the sitemap, and then I want to go with a background picture, probably the awesome one that we created. The only thing that I might have a problem with is that, since websites are fluid and not something that you can create like a flyer where everything is in the correct position all the time, but because everyone has different device, to make it friendly for all the, like, it's a sort of mobile friendliness also. Not only do the people have different devices in sort of tablets and mobiles, but people even have different devices and screen sizes when it comes to their desktop computers. So the issue is that we always have to keep that in mind when we're creating our website, because things will never be at the fixed position, and that's important to remember. So when you're working with a web developer and tell them that you want it in a particular place, you have to be aware of the fact that it's not always possible. You can ask that. You can ask your graphic designer that does your print graphics for you, but within web, it's fluid. It's moving. It has to move because it has to look good on every device. and especially when it comes to Google search and to index pages in Google, they have to be mobile optimized. So the thing is that you have to always keep in mind that things that have to fit on a landscape big laptop screen that has 15, 17, 21 or whatever, how many inches your screen has, cannot look the same as something that you have in your mobile phone. Because first of all, it's portrait mode, and it just doesn't work that way. The specs and the sizes are totally different. So that's something you always have to keep in mind, that it's actually important that this is fluid, that this can move, and to make it great for all the devices. So as I said, logo at the top, navigation bar at the top, a bit of a headline tag and tagline here. Maybe eventually I would move it in the center because that's how our picture works. But also it really depends, but we're gonna see while I'm doing it. You will be able to see that most likely. Then again, since we have a podcast, and the most important thing about that podcast are the episodes. That's why I've moved the episode part pretty far at the top, so that people can actually immediately see and immediately get to our episodes. What then is important is why we're even doing it, so that makes it interesting and we can address our audience pretty quickly. And then we will add some stuff about us because we're the ones who do it, right? And so it's interesting what we're about and why we're there and who are the hosts of your of the thing. Other things that you can potentially add is maybe a contact form if you want people to reach out to you, or if in a later state we want to take applications for who wants to join or be guest at our podcast, we could potentially do that too here. But as you can see here, that's generally how I will work through the thing. And you can do that wireframe or that sketch if you want to for all the pages. You don't necessarily have to do it within Illustrator. You can also sketch it in an actual notebook, like people still do that. But for the wireframe within Illustrator, you can be even more specific. The deeper you dive, then you can think about how you want it to look on tablet and how you want it to look on mobile. But I'm not gonna go dive that deep into it right now. But yeah, that's generally how you can pre-plan the actual page for your homepage, and not only the first one, but all of them.